All right, everybody. This is our friend Marilyn.
Hello.
And on another subject today, just trying to learn about how cool it was back in her day because we all live a different life than she lived, definitely. So, Marilyn, when you were growing up, like, let's say rock and roll or let's say music, how did music start with
Okay,
you?
that was when I was in high school. The Beatles came, and there was like a revolution in music at that time. People either loved it or hated it, and the older people really thought it was terrible, and the younger people thought it was wonderful, and so there was this exciting split between everybody. But they were so amazingly different. In reality, they did not have long hair, but they were treated like they had long hair,
Like Outcasts or
like
something?
but their hair maybe came to their ears or something. It was, but they hit the country, and they exploded.
Not like nowadays. Sometimes you can't tell a girl from a guy's hair, you know?
Right. Oh yeah, but we had very strict rules long ago about what was okay for men and women to do. Like men wore their hair a certain way. There was no long hair with men at that time. No men wore long hair. Everybody was, very good, close.
Like men wore suits or work clothes and
Oh,
women wore
my
dresses, huh?
father was a baker and took the subway to work early in the morning, and he wore a suit and a hat, a fedora.
Wow. Those look good on people.
Every man in the world in New York City wore a fedora in the winter and a straw hat in the summer, if you can believe that.
And then they go to work and change clothes
And
and
then
then
my father would go to work, change, put on his baking clothes, and then get dressed up to come home.
wow.
But that's
So different from today.
yeah, and like woman wouldn't leave the house without a hat on.
Oh wow.
That's that and gloves.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
to
strange.
the grocery store
That's wild.
seemed perfectly normal. Of course, I remember going to the grocery store with my mother. You know, now it was also interesting that there were no self-service grocery stores.
Oh, self checkout?
Self-checkout. That was ridiculous. You went in and you told the guy what you wanted, and he ran around the store getting it.
Wow.
And you stood there and you waited. Then he would take the paper bag, and he would put the how much it was, and when we got all finished, he would add it up in his head. He would add the numbers up.
That's so cool. Nowadays, everyone has to have a calculator or something,
Right.
right?
There wasn't no such thing. And so then they had outside there was a three-wheel kind of wagon that he would put them in, and later on somebody would deliver them to your house, because hardly anybody had a car. That
And this
was
was in New York, right?
in New York. Yeah,
All right.
we lived in the suburbs, way out in the suburbs. It was not the city. We would go into the city once in a while, but it was really strange. I had aunts and cousins that were there that we would go to visit, and as I think about it, it was terrible. Their place was terrible. It was like a row of rooms, just a row of rooms. There was no bathroom in their apartment. They had the bathroom was in the hall for everybody to use, and there was no bathtub. They had a wash tub in the kitchen that the kids got bathed in. You know, really.
How'd the parents bathe? The same thing?
I don't know. I
That's so
really don't
wild.
know. They probably didn't have full baths. They probably just had spit baths,
Yeah, like
you
the
know. But you know, it was. As I look up, it was terrible. I mean,
so much nicer to have your own
oh,
bathroom
well,
today.
and you had your apartment was like 3 rooms in a row with doors. That's
That's
that,
wild.
if you can imagine. And then this part of it, there was a little kitchen, you know, but it was bare.
Did you have a front stoop you sit on?
I
Like,
didn't live there.
oh, okay.
I had relatives that lived there. My mother and father were much happier and much better off. My father, fortunately, because he was a baker, he had a job during the Depression because people
Everyone needed bread and
everybody
cakes
ate
and
cake,
yeah.
and so you know we lived in way out in the suburbs, in a very nice, lovely, you know, area. We lived in a big apartment complex, but there was trees and you know it was like being out in the country. But where my cousins lived, it was really bad.
They lived in the middle of town
Oh,
though,
they
huh?
were in the middle of New York, and it was bad. It was really you would not want to be there.
Wow.
And the kids were different. Like they were tougher, and they swore.
They were
You
like
know,
streetwise, kind of.
streetwise.
Okay.
You know, and
I guess they had to be though, huh?
I guess I don't know. I never said a swear word till I was 30.
You still
But
don't, right?
very seldom, once in a while, just for fun. But it was just it was a different world, and they envied me because I was an only child, and I was so. My mother made all my clothes, and I always had nice things to wear, and I always had good things for Christmas. My mother used to sneak some of my stuff when I wasn't looking to give to them because they didn't have anything.
Oh, your cousins.
Yeah,
Oh, I get it. Okay.
you know.
Your mom sounds like a nice lady.
And I would say, "What did you do with my doll?" You know. I'm going to say, "William, I didn't have a doll. I don't care.
Right. Right. That's your doll.
It's my doll." You know. Anyway, it's hard to believe the life that we all lived in that time. There was
Now you with your new 65-inch TV,
oh God,
right?
the first TV I saw was at the World's Fair in New York. It was
Do you know
like,
what year that was? Do you remember, kind of?
it was 1940 something, I think. Shortly before the Second World War. I don't know when this was, but the TV was only about like 6, 7 inches long, and it was amazing. We were just so excited. My God, this was unbelievable that you could see this. You know, and then of course we know what happened.
What happened?
But along came real. We have television 24/7.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
That in the beginning, television only came on like a few hours a day because there was no programming, of course, and so there was wrestling. Everybody and the little tiny TV, you know, probably 8 inches long, and all our friends came, and we put the TV up somewhere where everybody could watch it, and we watched wrestling. Gorgeous George was the big star.
Wow, I've heard that name.
We watched Gorgeous George. It was a great big show. Everybody, you know, it was funny.
So when you were like, you know, back to like the Beatles and stuff, were you into music a lot? Did you like did you ever go to concerts? Did they have concerts?
Well, not really. This was during the Second World War, and there was not a lot of movement, going from place to place during the Second World War, and it was a big deal with the Beatles, and we didn't have nearly the kind of entertainment that we have today.
Yeah, because like every night's a concert today. It's
Oh
like,
God, there
yeah.
were no concerts. Had moved now. The only entertainment we had outside of the house. In the house we had a radio. That was it. But we would go. The movies would change like twice a week, and there would be double features. Because and it was 10 cents to go to the movies.
Wow.
And sometimes they gave away dishes.
Oh, like, thanks for coming here?
Right.
Wow.
But it would change twice a week. Because that's all people had going. And it was 10 cents, and 10 cents was a lot of money at that time. It was a nickel to ride the subway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
A nickel.
And the subway was above ground though, right?
Oh, that was when you got to the Bronx, it was like the end of the subway.
Okay.
And that we were at the end of the subway.
Was the subway underground there?
Not there. It had to come. Evidently, there was some geographical problem, but it was underground for a long way, most of the way, and then it would come up on up,
then it would be like a tram or a train
right,
or whatever.
high up. It was up in the up in the air. It was kind of an amazing time, and it was different. And I don't think it was better or worse. It was just different.
It's neat to hear your stories.
We had a lot of freedom. I mean, we didn't have the problems that we have now. We didn't have all the nonsense. We could be as kids.
You didn't have Google.
Well, and as kids, we ran the streets. We had big empty lots that we played on. We used to bake potatoes, on a fire. We had freedom. And there was no fear. There was nothing, that you had to be worried about. And people just did what they did, but there wasn't the same kind of fear. I don't think people ever locked their doors at that time. There was not this, the same kind of concern about somebody robbing you. That just didn't happen.
It sure does nowadays.
Because it was just depression. Everybody was helping everybody. We most always had somebody. We had a big chair in the living room that the back went down, and almost always we had somebody sleeping in that chair.
A friend or a neighbor
friend or somebody
relative
who didn't have any place else to sleep.
Wow, that's neat.
And the WPA, the work,
What's that?
The work project something. It was a way of letting people have money for working. And they built all kinds of things. You could still see things that were built during that time. That was Roosevelt, who God help him, he saved the country. But he made people work for it. He made people work for the money. He didn't
That's
just
great.
give them money.
Like they do nowadays.
Probably did, right. And it's so obvious why. They had pride. The people who get paid now don't have any pride.
No.
Not
at all.
You're doing them a disservice not to give them something worthwhile to do. But nobody seems to notice that.
Yep.
I had recently, or a few years ago, I met a woman who used to borrow her sister's kids to collect money. She didn't have any kids, but she got a check every week for children she didn't have.
Wow, that's crazy.
And that's going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was interesting, but but different.
Different is now, definitely from today.
Yes.
Well, everybody, I'm glad you enjoyed our little video. We'll definitely do one soon. And go ahead, Marilyn.
Yes. Thank you for listening. It was fun.
We'll see you all soon.